Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got a headline that's catching a lot of attention, and it's coming straight from President Donald Trump. He recently introduced a rather bold and unexpected idea that's starting to make waves: the potential return of rebate-style stimulus checks for Americans. But this time, funded through tariff revenues. Yes, you heard that right. The same tariffs that have been blamed for raising costs on everyday goods like electronics. Clothing and household necessities might soon be the source of some extra cash headed your way. Now, let's unpack that a bit. Trump hinted at this plan during an informal chat outside the White House, suggesting that the U.S. has been bringing in a hefty amount of money through tariffs, and that maybe, just maybe, it's time to redistribute some of it back to American households in the form of a financial rebate. According to his words, they're thinking about a little rebate, although he also emphasized that the priority is still to tackle the national debt. Naturally, that raises a few important questions. Could this idea actually work? Would the average American genuinely benefit from it? And what's the catch? Before we dive into all the details and implications of this proposal, I want to hear from you. If the government issued a new rebate, check funded by tariffs, how would you use it? Drop your answers in the comments below. I always love reading your thoughts. And if you find this kind of analysis helpful and want more clear, noise-free breakdowns of complex issues, be sure to hit that subscribe button. All right, let's get into the substance. During that impromptu press moment, President Trump mentioned that the country is collecting significant revenue from tariffs. He said something along the lines of, "We've got so much money coming in," and floated the idea of offering a little rebate to Americans, possibly those within specific income brackets. While the comment was brief and lacked full details, sparked considerable speculation, especially given how real the numbers are. Let's take a look at those numbers. According to the U.S. Treasury Department, in just the first 6 months of 2025, the federal government has already collected over $100 billion from tariffs. And projections for July alone indicate an additional $27 billion in tariff revenue. That's a substantial stream of income. But remember, tariffs function like indirect taxes on imported goods. And even though these taxes are technically paid by importers, the cost often trickles down to us, the consumers, resulting in higher prices at checkout. Here's the twist. After charging more for everyday goods through these tariffs, the administration may now be considering giving a portion of that revenue back to the public. It's being framed as a refund, but in practice, might feel more like the government raising your grocery bill and then handing you a coupon to ease the pain. And if that sounds a bit backward to you, well, you're definitely not alone. Despite that irony, the idea is sparking real conversations. Trump's team is presenting this as a dual-purpose move, helping reduce the federal debt, which is currently soaring between $36 and $37 trillion, while also offering targeted relief to working-class Americans. He's made it clear that any rebate would likely be aimed at lower-income groups who've been disproportionately affected by rising costs. So, where does this idea stem from, and what could it actually look like? There's a related proposal that's been circulating, often referred to as the DOGE Dividend. This concept was put forward by James Fishback, a Trump-aligned advisor, and it builds on the rebate idea by tying it to government efficiency. Under that model, Americans could receive up to $5,000 in payouts linked to savings from reducing government waste and fraud. Essentially, it's like a reward program for trimming bureaucracy. If the government saves money, you get a slice of that pie. It's an intriguing idea, no doubt, but to be clear, it's still just a proposal. Nothing has been officially introduced or passed through Congress now. If this all sounds familiar, it's because rebate and stimulus checks have been used before, especially during times of financial hardship. Let's rewind a bit. In both 2001 and 2008, the Bush administration issued tax rebates to help soften the blow of economic downturns. Then, in 2020 and 2021, stimulus checks became a critical lifeline under both Trump and Biden to help Americans manage the financial fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic. But there's a key difference here. Those payments were tied directly to a national crisis. This time, the proposed rebates are based on surplus tariff revenues, meaning there's no emergency driving the idea, just a potential financial cushion being redistributed. Let's step back for a moment. In the past, stimulus payments were usually tied to significant events. Think massive job losses, lockdowns, or financial meltdowns. But this time, there's no such emergency in play. The rationale is this: the federal government has raked in a sizable sum through tariffs on imported goods. And instead of holding on to it all, some are suggesting, why not give a slice of that back to the people? Now, on the surface, that might sound like a win-win. But here's where things get complicated and a little controversial. Let's talk about those tariffs. A large portion of what we use and consume in the U.S. clothing, electronics, appliances is manufactured abroad. When tariffs rise, importers get hit with higher fees. But those fees don't stop at the ports. They get passed down the chain, landing squarely in the lap of the everyday consumer in the form of higher prices. It's what many economists refer to as a hidden tax. You don't see it directly, but you feel it every time you check out at the register. And who ends up bearing the brunt of that impact? Lower-income families, more often than not. For households living paycheck to paycheck, even minor price increases on food, fuel, or essentials can be painful. So essentially, the government is saying, we increased your costs, now here's a little cash back to make up for it. But when you really break that down, it doesn't balance out. Prices typically don't come back down after a tariff spike. You might get a single rebate, but the cost hikes, those linger. A former Federal Reserve economist captured it well with a metaphor that's hard to forget. She said, "It's like trying to put out a fire with one hand while throwing matches with the other. A policy that gives and takes at the same time doesn't truly address the root issue." And here's another layer: there's disagreement even within Trump's own political circle. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, for example, has voiced skepticism. He acknowledged that, yes, handing out checks could be politically advantageous. But he also warned that it undermines core conservative values like fiscal discipline and reducing government spending. He likened it to paying off a credit card with more borrowed money, a quick fix that ignores the bigger financial picture. So, what we have here is a classic policy dilemma. On one hand, the idea of financial relief resonates deeply with working class Americans who are dealing with rising expenses. On the other hand, critics argue that it risks inflaming inflation and adds pressure to an already staggering national debt, which currently hovers around the $37 trillion mark. But here's something worth remembering: this wouldn't be the first time Trump used tariff funds to send out aid. Back in 2018, as his trade policies impacted American farmers, his administration distributed billions in relief payments to help offset the losses. This new proposal, if it gains traction, would apply that same model on a broader scale. This time reaching directly into American households, and let's not underestimate the power of messaging here. Trump is well known for turning policy into personal connection. Think back to those early 2020 stimulus checks that arrived with his name printed on them. That wasn't just a payout, it was branding. For many recipients, it felt like a personal gesture regardless of where the funds actually came from. If a similar rebate were issued now, especially during an election year, it could serve both financial and political purposes in one stroke. But let's be clear, this is still just a concept. There's no official bill in Congress, no set criteria. For eligibility, no confirmed date or distribution method. Right now, it exists only as a suggestion, a soundbite. And yet, the sheer volume of discussion around it shows how powerful even the idea of financial relief can be when times are tight. And it also highlights how deeply intertwined money and politics are right now. Is this about addressing real economic pain? Okay. Or is it about winning votes and controlling the narrative? The truth may be a mix of both. So what does this mean for you? It means stay aware. These kinds of policy ideas can gain momentum quickly, especially if economic conditions shift or political pressure builds. Inflation data, election strategies, or new reports could easily move this idea from a concept to a concrete proposal. Or it might disappear entirely, like many other headlines. Before it, the key is to read between the lines. If a rebate check does appear in your mailbox, ask yourself, where did the money come from? What's being given in? What's being sacrificed to give it? Because while it may not come from new taxes, there's a strong chance you already paid for it through higher retail prices over time. That said, for millions of families, a check is a lifeline. It's not about theory, it's about survival. The payment could mean a stocked fridge, rent paid on time, or a brief moment to breathe in the middle of economic stress. So even if the policy has flaws, the immediate impact can't be ignored. Still, it's worth asking the bigger question. Are we building real long-term solutions? Or are we just applying temporary patches every time something breaks? Rebate checks, stimulus packages, tax credits, they're tools. But they don't replace a strong, fair system designed to support citizens during both good times and bad. So for now, we stay tuned. We stay informed. We watch how this develops and what, if anything, becomes official. If and when the government decides to move forward, I'll be here to explain every step of it. If you found this breakdown useful, please consider subscribing. And as always, let me know your thoughts in the comments, whether you support the idea, have concerns, or just want to talk about what rising costs are doing to your budget. Let's keep the conversation honest, grounded, and focused on what really matters. Thanks for being here, and I'll catch you in the next update.